Hello my beautiful puddings, welcome to part 2 of making a new doll. Today we're going to be making Mrs. Gnome and we're going to be cutting her body on the scan and cut here and sewing it all together. If you haven't seen part 1, I'll link it in the description below so you don't have to scroll through the other posts trying to find it. Alright, let's get started. So this is the Brother scan and cut. It's the SDX 1200 and I bought it online at Echidna Sewing. I think it was about $800. I bought it on ZipPay. So it's quite expensive, but once you guys see what this thing can do, you'll realize why. So even though I've already scanned the patterns in that I need, I'm going to show you how I do it. So this is a die cutting machine and it can cut felt and paper and foam and all kinds of things like that. It's got a little screen here once we get it going. So all I did was I traced out the patterns for the gnome body that I need. I don't include the arms because the fingers are so small that this will mess it up. And the heads on the back, I did actually merge the patterns, but I'm not going to show you how to do that today. So this is the mat that I use to scan the patterns in. It's only a low tack mat and you just stick the paper on there. The other one's my fabric mat. So we'll stick this on here. Hello Thomas. Oh yes, hello. What are you doing? Oh. Stick that on there. Nice and good. And you pop it in. And there's a little button over here, and that's a picture of the mat. And you just push that on. Load the matting. Oh, it went a bit quickly. And it's lifting up. Ow. You didn't see any of that. Alright, so we've got a little pen. And we're going to go scan. Scan to cut data. And what that means is it'll scan the lines and then turn it into an, I think it's an SVG file, and make it so that it remembers these lines and it'll cut them out later. So we're going to start, put the lever down, so 1. And it actually has a scanner inside of it. So it'll run it through and it pops it up the back, as you can see, pulls it out, and it will have scanned this image. So as you can see here, it's scanned the patterns in, and this is the cutting mat, this whole big square, and that's my patterns. So I think I clicked this one. Yep, and I just, sorry, I'm trying to see what I'm doing and film while holding the camera. Go like that. Preview. Yep. And then I save it to the machine. You can also save it to the computer or USB, but I just save it all to the machine so I don't have to have it plugged into the computer. Sorry for my handy cam. So now that's saved in there. And I'll click the home button so I can show you. And then if we go to retrieve data, these are all my patterns in here. So that's the one that I'm actually going to use today. And that's the one I just scanned in there, so we can get rid of that. What's the matter, baby? You're very silky today. So now we're going to unload this one. Pop that out, and you can get rid of this. Oh, it's not even stuck on there at all. These Brother mats are not very good. Now, this one is the fabric mat, and this green thing is just the protective cover because it actually has a secondary adhesive that I buy that has extra holes for fabric because these mats aren't very good and they lose their adhesion very quickly. Here's our lovely felt that we're going to use. Scissors, chop it off. I have this. Alright, I've got this ready. I'm freaking out. We've got the lever ready, and we're gonna go retrieve from machine. Gnome. Yep. And then once we get to this stage, you can't really see the screen, but I've got the pattern ready there. I've got this ready. I use the scanner to scan what's in there. It doesn't really matter on this too much because I know that it's going to use most of the cutting surface. But when I'm only doing small parts, like if I've got arms a different color or legs a different color or a tummy or whatever, I can have all the different colors of felt that I need on here and it will scan. So it's got the outline there. That'll fit like perfect. Select cut. I'm going to try and cut it 1 mil. Scares me so much doing this. If you can see here, it's got 12 minutes. And the whole idea of me getting this machine is that I can set it and I can go do something else while it cuts for 12 minutes. But the reality is I haven't spent enough time playing with it and perfecting everything that I can just leave it. Yesterday I had it on while I ate my lunch, so that's something, but not yet. Not to just go and sew and do stuff like that, but it does take me a lot longer to cut things by hand, I can tell you that. And using scissors is also one of the biggest things that drains my hands, and I've been getting like arthritis and stuff, so hopefully this will help save me just a little bit. I'll still have to cut arms by hand and like ears and stuff like that, but this will do the main part. Oh, you can kind of see how it's cut the body there. I'll end up cutting this whole bit down here. Oh shit. So now it goes and it cuts a second round because it only cuts 1 millimeter the first round. I usually have it on 0.5. It'll just cut that last little bit so that it's not cutting the whole depth in one go. So the scan and cut is done. We've got all our little legs and tummy and head pieces. And this is the most satisfying but also kind of terrifying part. And listen really closely for some ASMR. Woo. So now we're going to use this little bit to cut arms out. I was using the other scrap, but this one actually is a bit fluffy on the back from being stuck to here. So I'm going to cut them on here so that I can cut them the right way. And then we'll get all these little guys off. While the scan and cut was going, I did cut 2 little ears, front and back. and one part of an arm. So I've still got to cut this bit, and then I'll cut 2 other. Arms and ears are all cut. There's your arms. Doo-doo. And this is what's left of that big bit of felt that I had after cutting the gnome. And it might look like a lot of wastage, but these bigger bits I can use again on the scan and cut. If I want to make a smaller doll, I can use bits like this and this. And then I have a bag that I'm keeping of all of the tiny little scraps, like these tiny little scraps that aren't good for anything. And I'll be using them to stuff things like brooches and stuff like that. So everything does eventually get recycled and used. So don't worry, this isn't going into landfill or anything like that. It will all get used eventually. And I did actually make another pattern, a resized pattern of the dolls I'm making now. That will be about 6 inches. These ones now are 10.5. So keep your eyes out for that. Here is a lovely little spatula that we use to get the felt off, because this mat is very sticky. So these pieces all look pretty trashed, but they're not. Don't worry, I just want to show you what they look like after they come off the mat, because it is pretty daunting. Try and get it on the right angle. Can you kind of see how it's really fluffy on this back bit from where it was stuck to the mat? I would make sure that my patterns are all exactly what I need, so I don't have 4, like the bodies aren't like all one way kind of thing. I make sure that they're all reversed and the right way. Does that make sense? Anyway, I'm going to trim them all up and I'll show you what they look like once they're trimmed, because they'll look like proper pieces. And if you're thinking, wow, by the time I cut it and take them off the mat and trim them and make sure they're all tidy, isn't that just going to take as long? No, it does not, I can tell you that. Alright, I've got all my bits to Mrs. Gnome. I've trimmed up most of the face, but I don't know how much you can see in detail. I leave the top of the head and stuff like that because it doesn't need to be tidy, because it's going to be covered by a hat and hair and all that stuff anyway. If I was making something like a shaggy dog that had long fur, I wouldn't worry about this process, but it's just to make sure that all the seams are really nice and tidy. But yeah, I guess now we can get on to sewing. that's the neck, this is the arm, and then this is the first part of the body. And then we go like that, we've got a leg. And we go like this, and we've got a second leg. Put that back up there. There. Can you kind of see how that's a body now? I made that look really easy. This is why I didn't actually film doing all of this for the first time, because I had lots of kinks to work out. Alright, now we're going to put wool on it. And put it all together. Ta-da! I'm sure that we finally have a person with one arm longer than the other, one leg longer than the other, ironically on the same side. Stuffed body. And I just gotta stuff the legs. Tushy's a bit flat, but that's alright because she's gonna have a dress and bloomers and stuff on. So the feet are all stuffed now, and we've got the little bony bits poking out the end. We just pinch it and fold it down. When I stuffed them, I made sure I stuffed it so it's further at the back than at the front, so that it's not like folding forward from all the way at the front. I've got the little fingers sewn. Now it's time to put the arm on the body, and hopefully I didn't make it too long, because I did make one arm a little bit longer, but I can kind of, instead of the arm coming straight out from there, I can kind of like push it off a little bit to like reshape it to make it shorter. Open this, pin that on there. This is the most difficult part of the whole doll, especially sewing the armpit and like lining it all up. It looks really messy at the moment, but trust me, it'll be fine. So first thing I'm going to do is try and put a bit of stuffing in the back of the hand to actually give a little bit of definition. And then as I sew, I'll sew the front first, and I'll try and get some stuffing in there. And then the main body will be done. But this Mrs. Gnome, for the first time, I want to try and put some little boobs on her. So I've stuffed her chest a little bit more than what I normally would, so that there's more resistance when I'm needle felting, so it doesn't end up making it super flat. And I'll be using the claw wool to do the shape of them. And yeah, we'll see how that goes after I finish this arm. I don't know how this is gonna go. I reckon that's a pretty good size. I don't know, maybe a little bit bigger. So I've got the claw wool felted on. Now we have to try and cut this felt sheet in a shape that will fit on there. Got one bib done. I reckon it looks alright. It's hard to kind of see. I tried to like compress the top down a bit because she was getting a bit like bulgy at the top of her shoulder. I'm like, that's a bit high. But I think that looks alright so far. Hopefully the other one ends up around the same size. Judging by that, it might not. It looks much smaller. I might have to take a layer of, or take this felt layer off and maybe put another layer of wool in underneath. But it might also be because I pushed it down that way. So we'll see how it goes. So I had to put a little bit of a patch there where there's a gap and a little bit there, but she's gonna have a bra and stuff on anyway, so you won't really see it. The main bit that had to be blended was the top, because she'll have a bit of a lower cut shirt. So yeah, that little bit's done, and we'll put her head on. Oh my god. I'm not gonna sew her head on just yet, because when I do the needle felting on her face, I don't want to have to be handling her body the whole time. I want to be able to just move her head, but I just want to see what she looks like. Yeah, that's better. Little bit unbalanced. Alright, I guess that's the end of part 2. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed part 2 of how I make my new dolls. Bye!